from a really young age, like I never wanted to like go look at some other guy and be like, wow, I would trade my life for that dude's life. Like literally no one, right? Like I would not trade my life for anyone's life.
All right, today on the podcast, we have Kam Wheeler. Kam is the president, owner, and chairman of American Construction Supply. And we just had a fantastic visit about growth, about performance, about personal development. Kam, like me, is a total nerd when it comes to developing himself as a human. He's constantly looking for ways to get better. He had a lot of great insights about that. Had a lot of great insights about family, dynamics of being a father and being a business owner and an entrepreneur and always trying to improve, and sort of these tensions that can pull us apart. You know, we had a fantastic conversation about all things business, personal development, family, and fatherhood. So without further ado, I give you Kam Wheeler. Well, Kam Wheeler, thanks for being on here, man.
Absolutely appreciate you having me.
It's good to catch up to you. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I am.
We could take this conversation 1,000 different directions, Kam, but I wanted to just jump in, if you don't mind, and talk about personal development.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart. You know, I remember when I was still a firefighter for Boise City, 2008, 9, 10, finding Jim Rohn's old YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And he was a guy that I had never even heard of. And, you know, here to come to find out, like, Tony Robbins mentored under him. But I want to know your story when it comes to that. When did you start getting into personal development, and who are some mentors of yours?
Yeah, no, really good question. I think at some level, it probably started when I was like in high school. I had an amazing high school football coach named Matt Strong, who I just felt like I connected with at a certain level, where he was always demanding the best out of everyone. And his way of leadership was very positive, was very encouraging. Everything that he said was about like how much better you are than everyone else you play, how you've prepared harder, how you've worked harder, how you deserve to win, just like all those kinds of things. And that was a different form of leadership really than I'd been exposed to in the past. And so at some level, like I think I started to become conscious of, hey, when people fill me with positivity, I feel like my capacity grows, right? Like my ability to be a good leader or a good player or whatever increases. And so then as I became older and I started getting in my career, I started noticing the differences in different types of leaders. And so I think probably for myself, I was probably my late 20s, early 30s, and I discovered Ryan Holiday and a book that he wrote called The Obstacle is the Way. And I started studying Stoicism, and I started reading about the belief that you could control your mind and subsequently control your thoughts and control your actions. And that was a completely foreign concept to me, because I think that, you know, being in the construction industry especially, a lot of people are very reactive, right? Like tempers, you know, are very much on edge. Like it's very you versus me, zero-sum game. If I get my way, then that means you don't get yours. And, you know, if you win, then that means I have to lose. And coming to the belief that win-win is a possibility, right? I started reading stuff from Stephen R. Covey. I started reading a lot of stuff from Ryan Holiday, Arthur Brooks, James Clear. I mean, the list goes on and on of people that had an impact on me just through reading their stuff. Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. You know, I just started studying, listening, finding stuff online, YouTube videos, social media content, reading books. And I think that just started sculpting the type of person I wanted to be as a leader. And at that same time, I was growing out of being in a technical role in my business and being in a managerial type of role to where you're moving into kind of the leadership phase, right? Where you're now directing people, you're building out teams, and it's less about, okay, what am I just doing to grind day to day and to become a master technician in whatever I do, but getting to the point where it's like, okay, I can be a leader that can go influence massive change in other people's behavior. And so all those people had a big influence on me. And so I'm kind of a junkie for it. And so I live for that stuff. And so, yeah.
You've been on that path for a long time.
Yeah. So probably like 7 or 8 years now, I think. So,
yeah. Isn't it interesting how what you're doing in your personal life, influences obviously your professional life, but specifically as an entrepreneur, can you speak to how you need to grow personally before your company can grow?
Oh, for sure. No, and I love that. And I teach this to people all the time, that if you want to have an A-level business or an A+ level business, you have to go and recruit A and A plus level people. And A and A plus level people don't work for B leaders, right? They only work for A plus leaders and A plus plus leaders and A plus 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 leaders.
Yep.
And so if you want to have an A or an A plus organization, that means you have to be an A plus leader. And so that puts, the responsibility on your shoulders to make sure that you are growing, that you're progressing, that you're becoming a better leader every day, that you're building a better organization, that you have an A plus vision for what you want your organization to become and the direction you're going to go. Otherwise, A and A plus people just aren't going to work for you, right? And they're not going to work with you. And so making sure that you're turning yourself into that type of person every single day. And so the best way that I found to do that is to be consuming content from A plus people and to be rubbing shoulders with A plus people, right? Like that has to be my network. I tell people all the time, and subsequently I have to live by it. But, I believe that you get paid on two things. You get paid on what you know and on who you know. And so you have to be pushing yourself to have A plus level knowledge and understanding and wisdom, but you have to have an A plus network too, right? And if you don't have an A plus network, and if you're not A plus level in your knowledge and understanding and wisdom, you're not going to be able to go and attract A plus people.
How has that played into your decision to start your own podcast?
Yeah.
I was so grateful you had me on. I'm glad I can return the favor.
Yeah.
But I also think it's interesting that, we're both doing this podcasting thing. There's a lot of other people doing it. What have you learned, and how has it enabled you to expand your network?
No, I love it. I think that a lot of it came from my desire to want to be better. And I sat down and was thinking one day, because I've been talking about doing a podcast for probably, 8 to 12 months, somewhere in that neighborhood. Of the idea had come to me, and I was like, okay, trying to work this out in my brain. And I'm a very analytical, linear thinker. So I was thinking through all the logistics surrounding it, the time that I have to dedicate to it. And I just thought, if I really believe that I need to get smarter every day, if I really believe that I need to be rubbing shoulders with A plus level people as often as I can, what better way can I have than having my own podcast to have people on? And selfishly, I just ask the questions that I want to know, right? That's it. That's literally all I do. My prep, when I go into it, I just study as much about the person as I can, and I just ask questions that I would want to know. What did they do to get successful? What do they read? What do they study? What things had an impact in their life? What was their family like growing up? What sorts of factors kind of created this person for who they are? What did they believe in personally? What's their business philosophy? All those kinds of things, and difficult situations they've been through, mentors, all those kind of lessons that have helped shape them into who they are. I just want to know those things. And the lessons that I can take from those things, it's really it's become a cheat code for me, where
absolutely,
I just learned so much from everyone that it's selfishly, if anyone else gets something from this, great.
Yeah,
but
I am,
right? And so it's I get an opportunity to sit down with A plus level people every week, sometimes multiple times a week, and I just get to ask them every question I'd want to know and to learn from them. And in doing so, it strengthens our relationship, just kind of grows the connection, and it's been an awesome thing. So
where do you think that curiosity comes from? You're obviously a very curious guy.
Yeah.
You always been that way?
Yeah, totally. I honestly, I just think that innately I was born that way. I just have always loved understanding how something works, right? It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a camera or that chair or this lighting fixture or how a building's put together. And I guess that kind of, led me on my path to earning a master's degree in engineering. But I'm just curious about how things are built, and people included, right? And so it's okay, what makes this person that way? What experiences do they have? What was their family like? What have they been through? How did they get there, right? I want to look at anyone, especially people that I think they're successful, and sometimes even those that aren't, look at what took them down that path. But, finding people that I can learn a lot from, saying, okay, what made that person special? What made that person so unique? And then try to reverse engineer that and say, okay, what lessons can I go incorporate, and what are they doing that I'm not doing?
What are some of the through lines that you've seen for people that are successful?
Yeah.
What are some commonalities that you've seen where you've said, oh yeah, I've heard this before?
Yeah. I think number one, that they're always self-starters, right? They're always driven. They have something in them innately where they think that they're better than everyone else. I don't mean that in a bad way, but they have a feeling and an expectation of themselves that they need to go achieve more than other people do. And so I think that there's that thread of people have high expectations for themselves. They want to be the best at whatever they do. And then I I think also that they're relentless in their pursuit of whatever it is that they want to go do, right? And so innately they feel driven that way. They don't take no for an answer. They figure out ways of solving problems and doing whatever it takes to get there.
What do you think is a more powerful motivator for you personally? The hatred of losing or the love of winning?
The hatred of losing for sure.
I don't even need to say
100%. I joke about this all the time because I coach my son's football team and have ever since he was a little kid. And I tell it to my teams all the time, right? It's like, I love winning. I love winning.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I think that I love more than winning is the love of not losing. Right? I hate to lose even more than I like to win. And I think that's something that defines people that are successful, right? They're just willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do. Of all the people I interview, there's such a common thread of hey, I went and jumped in my 1992 Mazda. I drove up here from Southern California. I went and knocked on someone's door. They said no. I went and met with this person. I went and coached for free at camps for 3 weeks during the summer for 2 years just to get an opportunity to meet Brian Harson and shake hands with him. It's I'm telling the story of Spencer Danielson. Comes up here and it's okay, he just was willing to do things that other people weren't willing to do. Other people are making resumes. He's coaching for free at kids camps during the summer, coming up to Boise, Idaho, or going to Palo Alto, California, or going to other places, right? It's successful people in real estate. They're just willing to go do things that other people aren't willing to do, whether that's marketing, whether that's making connections, whether that's utilizing their built-in network, whether that's, knocking on doors that other people aren't willing to go knock on, showing houses that aren't even for sale yet, being hey, I have someone that's interested in buying in this neighborhood. Would you be interested in selling? It's well, maybe, but it's they're just willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do, right? And we use the term built different, which I got from Coach Danielson as well. Right? We have a big sign hanging in our office, doing common things in an uncommon way, right? Are you willing to do what everyone else does, but to just go do it better, to go do it harder, to go do it faster, to go do it longer, right? If you say, hey, it takes a normal person 12 months to go do that. Okay, I'm going to go figure out how to go do it in 2 or 3, right? Oh, hey, this is a 5-year deal. Yeah, I'm going to do it in 1, right?
Now, the most driven people I've ever met hate losing more than they love winning.
Yeah.
And I don't think we talk about that very often. Everybody's always talking about goal setting and sort of this aspirational side of motivation, which don't get me wrong, that's important, right?
For sure.
It's important to have goals. It's important to be aspirational. But then also there's kind of this unspoken dark side of motivation that I've seen again and again in my life by people where they're trying to create as much distance between something they don't want and their current reality as they possibly can, or they hate losing.
Yeah.
How has that played a role in your life?
Yeah, no, for sure, right? I was just thinking about as you were saying that so I have a son named Cannon who's 15 right now. A couple years ago when he was 13, I had him do a summer project, and that was he needed to identify 20 different entrepreneurs or leaders that he knew in his life or that had some sort of connection to, and I would help him make the connection if he didn't know them well enough yet. But I had him sit down and interview 20 people that he felt were successful.
Yeah.
And so that was his summer project, right? So he was responsible for identifying the people, making the connections, coming up with 20 interview questions, ask each person, having the interview, asking him if he could record it, sitting down, talking to him, writing a thank you card back to them for taking their time, and then writing a report on what he learned from each of those people, right? So this was his
That's
summer
cool.
project that he worked on. So he took that project, and as he was doing it, one of the biggest things that stood out to me, one of the people that he was interviewing said, have you ever looked up in the stands when your games and not seen your dad there? And he's like, no. I've never had a game that I can remember of looking up the stands, my dad not being there. And he's like, that's a big deal. Most kids don't get to have that.
That's right.
And that was something that was so important to me. Before he was ever even born, right? That was important to me. And that drove me to be willing to do things that other people weren't willing to do, right? Take 21 credits a semester in college, be working my way through so I didn't have debt. Just trying to do things in an uncommon way, because I had this vision that when I have kids one day, I don't want to be missing their stuff. I don't want them to look up in the stands and be like, oh, I don't see my dad up there because he has to be gone somewhere. Someone else is dictating my dad's schedule. My dad has to be out of town. My dad has to be, doing something else, because my kids are the most important thing in the world to me. And so as much as I want him to have that feeling of, hey, my dad's here, my dad loves and supports me, and there's also the darker side of that that's my dad's not here. My dad couldn't be here. My dad's having to miss stuff, right? And I think that probably even drove me more than wanting to be there for him, wanting to have that feeling of knowing that my dad's always there, but not having the feeling of my dad's not here.
Did you have that feeling?
My parents were really good about showing up. Like, they didn't make it to everything all the time. There were 5 of us kids, and they just started a business, and so some of those things. But there were times, right? There were times where my parents couldn't be there, and I did. Like, I kind of felt that. Like, I felt that at some level, and there were times maybe when I wished my dad wasn't there, right? Because, like, my dad was, like, very hard on me, and it was very much like,
Dad,
hey, you got to be doing this, you got to be doing that. And I find myself doing that with my son sometimes, and I've got to, like, check myself and be like, okay, I hated this, like, and so I've got to make sure that I'm not, like, being the hypercritical dad, and that I'm just, like, trying to, like, be loving and supportive and try to, like, ask him, hey, like, what did you feel like went well? What did you feel like didn't go well? What could we work on? How could I help you to improve that? Now, and then there's other times when it's like, I just, come on court, and I'm not like the nice, soft, kind, loving dad. But I try to be, and so.
Yeah. So 5 siblings?
Yeah, it was so I was the second oldest of 5 kids. Yeah.
What was that like? Did you like it? Did you hate it?
I loved it. So when I was a kid growing up, I grew up, we lived on the corner of 2nd and 22nd in downtown Nampa when I was a really little kid, 2 blocks from the railroad tracks, in a little 800 square foot house, right? Like, my mom sewed my clothes. Like, you look at a bunch of pictures when I was a little kid, and I'm wearing Mickey Mouse short sleeve shirt, Mickey Mouse long sleeve shirt, Mickey Mouse sweatshirts, and it's like this pattern. And she just, like, bought a whole bunch of fabric, and she was sewing our clothes and doing stuff like that. And we were neck deep in. My parents had just started a company, and so, like, that was a huge part of what we did. And they would buy a house, fix it up, sell it, buy a house, fix it up, sell it, build a house, sell it. And so we moved 7 times by the time I was 11 years old. And so, my parents were working, they were grinding, they had ton of stuff going on. All my siblings and I shared a bedroom for a period of time when I was a little kid. So, I slept on the floor for several years, right? Just because, like, we had bunk beds in there, and the other siblings slept on the bunk bed, and being one of the middle children, you kind of get the short end of the stick, I guess. Sure. And so, I slept on the floor for several years, but, like, I didn't think it was bad. Like,
just
I didn't have a problem with it. Yeah, I didn't think my life sucked or anything. Like, I thought it was great. And, but, like, looking back, like, that also, like, that example, I think, speaks a lot, right? Like, seeing my parents push themselves and grind and do hard things. And, my parents were never content with just like, oh, hey, dad's off work and, sit around and do nothing. It was like, we always had stuff going on. So.
And what was the company that your parents started?
So my parents started American Construction Supply when I was 9 months old. So small family business, started out with one location right off Garrity Boulevard in Nampa, Idaho. And, later grew, opened another location. And so my brother and I ultimately, kind of long story getting to that point, but eventually my parents approached us about buying the business from them back in 2010. And so kind of took some time working through that and eventually executing that at the end of 2011, and then kind of had a buyout period of time where they were kind of still involved in the business for a while. But yeah, it was a great opportunity. They'd done a lot of things right, but we certainly had a vision of trying to do things different and building on that foundation. And so, yeah, we've been really fortunate and taking what was already there, doing things, same in some ways, but different in others. And, every organization takes on the personality of its leader. And so if you have a unique personality and unique vision where you want to go, obviously the company's subsequently going to change. And so, yeah, it's been an awesome ride and grateful for the opportunity and tried to make the most of it.
Did you always know you wanted to work in the family business? Did you hate the idea of working in the family business? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, it's funny because, like, as I was a kid growing up, my dad would say things to us like, you should, like, go be a dentist or, like, go be an oral surgeon or go, go be a pediatrician or go be something like that, right? Like, it wasn't, hey, go into construction, even though, like, my family had been in construction for multiple generations. It was always like, go do something else. Yeah. And so that's just kind of like what I always thought is I thought, like, I'll go do something else. Growing up around here in the late 90s or the 2000s, things are booming. And so I remember, like, telling my parents, like, I think I want to be a real estate developer. Like, I was like a junior in high school, being like, yeah, I want to be a real estate developer. And so that was kind of something that always interested me. I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, you go buy a piece of land, you go bring utilities in, you go put a road in, you get to kind of set the vision of how you want it to look and feel, and then you go sell it all off and then go rinse and repeat and do it again, right? And so that interested me from a young age. But I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and it wasn't really something that was talked about a ton. Like it wasn't something like we didn't just like sit around the dinner table and talk about that kind of stuff. It was always, sports and things that were happening immediately in our life. And, my parents kind of always emphasized getting an education, but didn't know exactly what that would look like. And so, I kind of thought I would be doing just about anything other than what I do. But I always had a proclivity to figuring out how things were built, understanding, engineering, construction, and wanting to, connect and help people. Like that's just always been part of what I enjoy doing. And so I was like, if someone has a problem, how can I fix it, right? It doesn't matter what that is, whether someone has, a broken toilet or bad finances or like, some sort of a massive multi-generational family problem. So, okay, how do we solve it, right?
So at what point did you kind of step back into it or start considering actually working in the family business then?
Yeah, so going to college, so I'd gotten an internship in 2009 with a company called M.A. Mortensen, which is one of the largest construction firms in the world. They're headquartered out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so they built the Raiders Stadium, they built the Vikings Stadium, they built most of the large-scale sports arenas around the country and a lot throughout the world. And so they had a contract with the Department of Defense to do like a $10 billion facility in Guam for the U.S. Navy. And so I went to work for them up on Fort Lewis McChord up in Washington State. And we built a Warriors in Transition barracks and a U.S. Army Special Forces training complex up there. And so getting to work for such a large-scale company opened my eyes to a lot of things and how they did things, and loved my experience there, loved what I learned from them. And then moved back down to Idaho, had an opportunity to work for them in their renewable energy division. They built a $300 million wind facility just east of Idaho Falls. So I had the opportunity to work on that. And it was around that time when my dad had approached me about, hey, your mom and I think we're ready to go hang things up. Would you be interested in coming back and buying the business from us? And so I think kind of at that point, things kind of took a shift, and I started considering that again and felt right about it, felt like it was the right opportunity. And, one of the things like when you're, I guess, young and dumb, you probably don't analyze decisions as much as you do when you get older, right? Because like you have more to lose at this point, right? It's like I have way more to lose now than I did when I was 22 or 23 years old. And it was like, hey, no, sounds like a good opportunity. I feel good about it.
Yeah, let's
thought through it. Like, okay, hey, let's go do it. And it's like, I had no idea, everything that was going to be involved and how many ups and downs would be there. But at the same time, like naivete can also be a blessing, right? It's like you don't get held up. Like I would analyze something like that now to death, right? Like, I mean, this would be like months or years. And back then it's like, okay, yeah, like, hey, I feel good about it. Within a few days, you make the decision, start moving forward, and then you just like jump in, right? And like be where your feet are at. Like if you decide to go do something, like go be all in on it and don't be wondering what if and, oh, maybe I should have done something else. And you're kind of always halfway in, halfway out. And I see a lot of people that don't succeed because they're never fully committed to something. And so
yeah. What's a moment you remember after the transition when you were like, oh shit, this is a lot harder, a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be?
Actually never. Like, and that sounds funny, but like, I don't think I ever had that moment. And I just feel like I never expected it to be easy. Like I never expected it to be easy. And that might've been because like I grew up seeing my parents and, working and grinding and all that kind of stuff. And so I never expected it would be easy. I never expected the transition with my parents to be easy. I never expected the relationship with my brother to be easy. Like I always kind of knew like, hey, like this is going to be really hard and everything good in life. And I think that's something that sports taught me too, right? Like I remember, grinding through football 2-a-days or, playing basketball and having shin splints and like running suicides on a basketball court when like your shins are like absolutely killing you and like, working through a torn quad or a hyperextended knee or a rolled ankle or a broken finger. And you're just like grinding. It's like, hey, like I'm still good, right? Like I'm not going to not play. And I think that sports taught me those things. I think sports taught me how to do hard things. And like I don't think I ever had one easy season ever. And the whole time like I played sports was like everything was always hard. Like, and so I think that just became second nature to me of what I expected. Like everything good is going to be hard. Going to college was really hard. Like I'm taking 18 to 21 credits every semester. I'm working, trying to balance all those things. Like I didn't have the typical, hey, go to school, go take 9 to 12 credits, go just like dick off and do whatever you want to go do and go have fun. And it's like, I didn't have that experience. Right. And so like, I just kind of expected like, yeah, everything's going to be hard. But at the same time, like I had this vision of what I wanted my life to be. And I don't even know where that came from. Like, I just like had this vision of like, hey, I want to be like the best dad in the world. I want to be at all my kids' stuff. I want to be able to coach all their stuff. I want to be able to like provide this great life for my kids and be able to go do things together and be there and love them, support them. And I want to tuck my kids into bed every night. I want to be able to read them a story or tell them a story. I want to be able to be at all their stuff. And like, that was just the vision of my life that I wanted. And so I was like, okay, like I got to go grind. I got to go work really hard. Like I'm not going to go, if I can go do my degree in 2.5 years, I'm going to go, or my bachelor's degree in 2.5 years, I'm not going to go make it take 5 years. I'm going to make it take 6 or 7. Hey, if a master's degree is going to take someone else 3 years to get, I'm going to go do it in 18 months. And just trying to go do those things so that I just wanted to like buy back my time, right? I wanted to buy back my time as soon as possible. And if I, seeing people get to the point where they can finally start making their own decisions and they could start spending their time doing what they wanted to do by the time they were 55 or 60. Okay, how do I do that by the time I'm 35? Right? And like that was my goal, right? I wanted to be to the point I would tell people all the time, like I want to be retired by the time I'm 40. And not that I'm retired from ever working, but I'm retired from working for something, right? And so now I just work on things. And so like if I have something I want to do, I'm working on it. I'm not working for it. And again, I don't even know where that vision came from, but God blessed me with it. It was somehow just kind of instilled in me. And I always knew that was what I wanted to do. And so beginning with the end in mind, working backwards, having that vision, that goal for what you want your life to be. And then if a decision doesn't line up with that, you just don't do it, right? And so, I mean, I get asked every once in a while now, but I'm kind of old and washed up. But like, buddies ask me, hey, come play City League basketball with us, or hey, come play in this football league, or hey, we're going to go take this trip, or we're going to go do this thing. And 99% of the time, the answer was no, right? Because like, I'm working, I'm grinding, like I'm just putting it in, right? And it's like, and so I said no to a lot of things for a really, really long time so that I get to a point in my life where now I can say yes to pretty much whatever I want to say yes to and say no to whatever I want to say no to.
How do you think your humble beginnings, 800 square foot house in Nampa, contribute to your drive?
Yeah. Like I didn't ever think, it's funny because like I think I was maybe young enough or naive enough. Like I didn't ever think we were poor. And I look back now and I'm like, oh man, we were poor, right? But like I didn't ever like feel, it wasn't like, oh man, like, hey, I'm going to school getting made fun of because I'm wearing the same 3 or 4, shirts that I have, just recycling them through all the time. Like I don't remember any of those things. Like I just remember from a young age, like always wanting to win at everything, right? Didn't matter whether we were playing soccer out on the, field at recess, or we're playing basketball, or we're playing football, or we're having a coloring competition, or like whatever it was. Like if it was who could read the most words, we're doing like the Mad Minutes where you flip them over. And it's like, I didn't care what it was. Like I just wanted to win and everything. Right. And so it's like probably to an unhealthy level, for sure. I'm competitive about everything. And so I think in a way like that drove me. But at the same time, like that's something that you constantly have to keep in check, right? Because like that can be a blessing, but man, it can also be a vice if you don't, check and make sure like, okay, why do I want to win?
It can burn you up.
It can, right? And it's like, and it can make you focused on seeing everyone else as your enemy rather than seeing people as your friend, right? And so, like for whatever reason, I feel like I was blessed to see that like I didn't ever feel like there wasn't anything that I couldn't accomplish. And I never wanted to say in my life, and I had this from a young age, I never wanted to say I couldn't afford something. Like, and I don't remember my parents ever saying this, maybe they just modeled it, but I always thought to myself, like, how can I afford something? Right? And so like my dad would force my brother and I to go to work with them all the time if we didn't have school and we weren't directly in a sport or something. So like getting up early on Saturday mornings, going out to job sites with him, getting dropped off at the shop, like whatever it was like, before school, after school, when we didn't have school, like, oh, you don't have practice until 7 o'clock tonight. Okay, guess what? Like you're going to work after school until practice starts or whatever. And so like we always had to work a lot, but then I was always like finding other ways to be entrepreneurial, I guess, right? And so somewhere along the line, like my dad turned me on to trapping gophers. We moved into this development that was like relatively new. And the developer had told him, hey, like we've got this massive like gopher infestation in here. We need someone to like come trap gophers. And my dad or someone else knew that the irrigation company would also pay you money to go trap gophers as well because they, burrow into the
For
canal
sure.
and then they blow out all over the place and make a big mess for them. And so I was like triple dipping, right? Like I was getting paid by multiple people for trapping gophers.
I love
so my
this.
dad took me down to D&B Supply, bought a bunch of gopher traps. I had a 4-wheeler. We strapped a box on the back of it. I had a shovel in there. I had gopher bait. I had stakes and my traps and all that kind of stuff. I had a gopher trapping business, right? I'm like 11 years old out there trapping gophers, and every single morning before school, I'd go set up all my traps.
Dude, I love it.
I'd go check them after school because if I caught gophers, I'd go take them out. I'd go reset my traps, go check them again that night.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, if I can be turning 2 or 3 gophers out of all these traps, I'm reinvesting and buying new traps all the time. So now all of a sudden I'm going from having 3 traps to having 18 traps, and I'm just
That's
like
a hell of a lot more fun than having a paper
right?
route.
Yeah, oh yeah, right. It was awesome, and so like I loved it, right? And like cruising around, but like I look back and I was always trying to find ways to be able to do things I wanted to do or get what I wanted to get, right? Like I remember going to football camp at BYU when I was in high school, and it cost $428. And the reason I remember that is because I had to pay it, right? And so it's like I remember exactly what it cost because like I wanted to go do it. And when I think that can be a great blessing when you have to go figure things out for yourself, that it leaves a lot bigger mark on you than it does if someone else is figuring it out for you.
How do you think you've been able to manage? Working with family can be hard.
Oh yeah,
I've done it. A lot of people have done it. Sounds like you've been able to manage those relationships pretty well, enough to make them last.
Yeah, sure.
How have you been able to manage the ups and downs of working with family and trying to manage the relationship side along with the business side? Because those two things don't always get along.
Yeah, for sure. And so this is a topic that I want to write a book about. Not that I'm an expert at doing it correctly. I just feel like I've had enough experience with maybe doing things the wrong way and then figuring some things out the right way. But I think that most people that start a business have the idea of wanting to perpetuate it to their kids, right? Or at least creating the opportunity that if their kids wanted it, there would be an opportunity there for them. And so I'm just a big believer in setting things up and making decisions with the end in mind and being able to put something in place that's sustainable, but that's also transferable, right? And so you want to set things up in a way so it's like, okay, this isn't going to be a nightmare. If something happened to me and I died today, is my life a complete dumpster fire, and is it going into probate and like it's going to be a mess for my wife and my kids to go figure out like after I'm gone? Or are you setting things up in a way where it's clean and people understand, and like my businesses would all outlive me because they're set up in a way that there's people in place and there's structure in place to where they can be successful. And managing the relationship part of that I think is a different thing altogether, where that's, I think, what's driven me the most in the personal development side, because I suck at a lot of that stuff, right? Like, I mean, I can be really, really difficult to deal with. Like, if anyone in my family is watching this, I'm really sorry. But I think that there's a fine line there when you know what you want and you know what you want to accomplish. You also don't want things standing in your way.
That's right.
And so it's like if you view someone else as standing in your way or something they're doing is standing in your way, it's like, hey, like I'm getting here.
That's an obstacle.
Whatever, right? Like the obstacle's the way. And so it's like, whether I got to go over you, around you, through you, it doesn't matter. Like I'm getting to this goal. And so like either you can go with me and we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. And I think that those kinds of things are just natural whenever you're highly driven, highly motivated, and focused on what you want to go and achieve. And I think that people need to go into understanding that, like, if you just want to have soft conversations and you don't ever want to have conflict and you don't ever want to have disagreements or strained relationships, like owning a business is not for you then, right? Like,
absolutely.
You have to be willing to have difficult conversations. You have to be willing to do difficult things. You have to be willing to, be unwavering and uncompromising in your mission, vision, values, and culture. And so if you know what you want out of those things, like, just because I love someone and they're acting contrary, right? Like, oh, hey, I have this family member that doesn't want to live the mission, vision, values, and cultures of the organization. Well, it's okay because they're your family, right? Like, oh, they're Nick's brother, they're Nick's, sister, or brother-in-law, or nephew, or son, or dad, or whatever the case is. Like anything other than a meritocracy, your organization starts to fall apart.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you have to reward people solely based on their merits, and are they bought into the mission, vision, values, and culture of the organization? And if they're not, then they become a cancer. It just becomes, how do you want to deal with that? Do you want to let that live? Because the longer you let it live, the more it's just going to hold you back. And most people, they are. Like they would rather sustain the long-term consequences of letting the cancer live in their company than they would about having the short-term hard conversations.
Why do you think that
to get rid of it? People don't like conflict, right? Like people don't like that. Like people don't like doing hard things. And it's hard. Like that's a hard conversation to sit down and to have with people.
It is.
And to have sometimes over and over and over again, right? And you're opening yourself up because guess what? When you tell someone, hey, I don't feel like you're in line with this particular thing, guess what they're going to do? They're going to come back and tell you how they don't think you're in line with other things, right? And so that's where, that responsibility that we talked about, that falls on your shoulders as a leader, that you have to embody what you want your organization to be, right? The organization takes on the personality, the culture, the spirit of the owner, the leader. It doesn't take on what he says, it takes on what he does.
That's right.
And so if you just say things, but you do something else, like you're just pretending, right? And people get that and they sense that. A+ people don't work for pretenders, right? They only work for people that actually believe in what they say they believe. And so you have to live those things. You have to be willing to do them, which means that you also have to hold people accountable. And I've just found like people ultimately respect you more if you're willing to hold them accountable rather than turning a blind eye, right? Like both the person that you're turning a blind eye to and everyone else in the organization. Because if you're turning a blind eye to things, you're letting them get away with things and they say, well, Nick doesn't really believe in that. Kam doesn't really believe in that. He says he does, but he's not holding me accountable, so I'm just going to continue to push the limit and to get away with it. And other people observe that as well.
That's right.
And so you're really only hurting yourself. And I think that people want to be held accountable. They may not think it in the moment, but I've had too many experiences where people have come back to me, and sometimes these have been hard, heated discussions, right? Sometimes family members, sometimes others, where they've come back and they said like, hey, like thanks for saying that to me. Like I really needed to hear that. I know I was pissed off at you. I know I was pissed off at you for years, but like that was actually what I needed to hear. And I needed to have that change. And sometimes it's a year later, sometimes it's 5 years later. But I think that people, if it's done out of love and it's done like with genuine concern and with commitment to correct principles, I think that ultimately if people are trying to be the best version of themselves, they'll ultimately come back and thank you for doing that.
No, I couldn't agree more. And last week I was on a panel with some other real estate industry leaders in New York. I flew over there for the Inman Connect event, and it was all about culture. And this what we're talking about right now is the exact point that I made as kind of a wrap up on our session. As I just said, leadership by example is really the only true leadership there is, and people are just going to do what you do, not what you say. But the other side of that, I think it's kind of a two-headed dragon as a leader. Is like you have to do the right things, and you have to want people to emulate your behavior. So you get what you give, but then you also get what you tolerate. And that's sort of that hard accountability side of things. Is it's both. Yes, you have to be able to set an example, but part of that example is that you're not willing to tolerate toxic behavior in your organization.
And I think that principle holds true in everything, right? It holds true in your business, holds true in your marriage or your personal relationship, holds true with your kids or with other people close to you. That if you are really intentional about having a certain life, having certain standards and beliefs in your life of what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not, you have to be willing to have those conversations. And so many people are willing to just sweep it under the rug, act like it doesn't exist. In the words of Jordan B. Peterson, right? Like all you're doing is just feeding the monster that's hiding under the rug, right? You're just feeding him, and that monster's getting bigger and getting bigger and bigger and bigger over time. And it's going to be harder and harder and harder to slay once it finally starts rearing its ugly head.
I'm glad you say that, because in a lot of ways, the business stuff is easy. Like the personal, the marriage conversations, the conversations with your kids. I mean, man, that's some of the stuff that's brutally difficult.
For sure, right? It's like, I mean, you think of anyone that works for you in your organization, largely you ask them to go do things, they're going to go do it, right? Because if they don't go do it for a long enough period of time or enough times, then they just don't work for you anymore.
Right.
And that same thing, you don't want to have happen in your personal relationships or with your kids as well, right? It's like, hey, like I have this one child that like will not do what I say. Okay, how do you deal with that, right? Like, and every kid is going to be different, and you're going to deal with boys differently than deal with girls and individual personalities of each. And same thing like with your spouse, like, and so there's conflict resolution, there's commitment to correct principles and having a certain culture that you want to have in your family. And I think all those things are inseparable, but also goes back to like, you have to be willing to live and embody all of those things that you want someone else to get, right? Like I for whatever reason, like I have young people coming to me all the time, like, oh man, like there's just no good boys out there to potentially date or marry, or guys like, there's no girls that I want to, date or marry or whatever. And the advice I give them all the time is like, you have to go be the kind of person that you want to attract. And if you're living these things, I believe that you'll go attract those kinds of people.
Yep.
And, same thing's true in business, right? It's like A+ people don't work for, B leaders. And so you have to go be an A+ person. You have to go live and embody all those things that you want. And ultimately you're going to attract those kinds of things. And I think that setting that example, because it doesn't matter what I say, like my kids are ultimately going to figure out who I am.
That's right.
And so they're going to understand who I am. They're going to see me in all those times. They're going to see me in my worst. They're going to see me early in the morning or late at night, and when I'm most, impatient, and when the guard comes down and the mask comes off, like they get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what kind of an example am I really setting for them? And am I setting one where my girls are going to be like, no, like I don't tolerate certain behavior because like my dad modeled this my whole life. And so like this is the kind of guy that I want to be with because my dad modeled that for me.
That's right.
Right. And same thing for like my boys. Like my boys are going to look and they're going to say like, hey, like this is the kind of man I want to be because this is the kind of man my dad is and I know it's possible. And, I want my kids to be able to like look at me and to be like, hey, like I'm proud to say that that's my dad, not hey, I'm embarrassed to say that's my dad.
I was thinking when you were talking earlier about employees and following your example, I was thinking about kids are the ultimate example followers, And I even think about your story, your childhood, like your dad saying, hey, don't do what I do, like go do this, go that. But meanwhile, you're watching his example. That's what you wind up doing. That's what he did. It's like, you can say whatever you want, Dad, but I'm going to follow your example.
No, it's true, right? And like, and your kids are going to figure you out. And so whatever those personal vices or what your strengths are or what you ultimately want to be, like be willing to love your kids and to love those that depend on you enough to make good decisions so that you're setting an example for them, but also like blazing a trail for them to show like what can be done and what is possible, right? Because I think that the world more and more is going to try and tell them that certain things are impossible, right? It's impossible to start business. It's impossible to do this. It's impossible to, be a good husband and be a good dad and be an entrepreneur and be this. And I think the world lies to women probably even more than it lies to men and telling them like, oh no, you have to go do this. And there's no way you're going to ever be fulfilled as being a wife and a mother. Like the only way to feel fulfillment is in these other ways and through having, secular recognition and having people tell you how great you are in some sort of business setting. It's like, no, the ultimate fulfillment that any woman can have is from their family and from their children, right? And that's not to say that I don't think like having a career isn't a great thing. Like I think that women can have careers as well and be successful in both, but I don't think there's any handbag, cat, British, bulldog, whatever you call them, like nothing like that is ever going to replace having a family and having posterity, right? Like those are the ultimate things that are going to make you happy. And so I think focusing on the things that you want out of life, and again, just like being relentless in your pursuit of those things and not deviating, not making decisions in your life that are going to take you away from what you want the most.
There's so many surprises waiting for us in life as we grow and get into new things. And one of the most surprising things for me is like a husband and a father that I wasn't expecting because, man, I've never had to think about this before. I just know my existence. Like I have to be like such a champion for my wife on the value she brings as a mother. Right. And taking care of our household and doing all the things that she does. It's like, I have to constantly, and it's not I have to, like I enjoy doing it, but something has to be a counter voice to the voice that she hears and that all these women hear constantly that devalue that and that say, no, like you should go out in the workplace and no, this isn't going to fulfill you. And no, and that's just something that I never anticipated, but is a constant barrage that they're under, and meanwhile, like, I feel like you can understand this. We're sitting here like, being breadwinners and being in the workforce and growing up at it and having the expectation we have to provide. And we're like, this kind of sucks sometimes. Like
we're sitting here having this deep, meaningful, thoughtful conversation. And meanwhile, like they're changing diapers and making sandwiches and doing laundry and doing all those kinds of things that could in a way feel really unfulfilling and not getting to have the same, type of interaction, certainly not as frequently. But again, like I think that the world again will tell you like how valuable women are in the workplace and how replaceable mothers are. And like, oh, you can just go outsource that. No. And you can't, right? No, like you can't. And I'm a firm believer that being a mom is the most important job in the whole world.
Couldn't agree more.
And there's nothing else even close, right? Like being a dad is really important. And like I get to help and support and be the yin to her yang, so to speak. But like, I can't think of anything more beautiful than a woman later on in life that can sit there and look at her posterity. And my kids, we go to grandma's house, right? Like, my parents are married. Yeah. It's grandma and grandpa's house. But what are the kids thinking of us? They think it was grandma's house, right? They want to go to grandma's house. We just took this big family picture, and here was my mom with all of her kids, right? Her 5 kids, their 5 spouses, 17 or 18 or 19 grandkids, whatever they have now, right? So, but here's these, 35, 36, 37 people sitting in this picture together that all came because of her. Yeah. Right? And it's like, that's the most beautiful thing in the world.
So beautiful.
That you get to go create this posterity, and like, truly you never die.
Right.
Not only because you live on through your bloodline, but you live on because of the love and the values that you instilled in your kids, and those things perpetuate on forever, right? Like, I am who I am because of both my parents, but like a lot of it because of my mom, right? And like, I feel like I had an unfair advantage in life because I had such an incredible mom, right? Like, I woke up every single morning. I could probably count on less than one hand the number of days there wasn't like a hot breakfast made sitting on the table waiting for me. Like, when I got up, came upstairs, didn't matter whether I was going like 6 a.m. weightlifting or, going to school or work or whatever it was. Like, my mom was up making breakfast, hair done, makeup done. She already exercised for half an hour, sound of laundry going in the background. It's like, like she was balling, right? Like, my mom was waking up, like kicking butt from the moment she woke up in the morning, like getting herself ready, getting herself going. It's like, okay, like I didn't even realize, like I had no idea that my mom was like Superwoman, right? Like, like I thought that was just normal.
No,
and, like I just thought that. And so that's why I say, like, I had an unfair advantage because like I witnessed that every single day. And then my mom would get up and she'd grind, and she was working in the business, and whatever needed to be done, like she was jumping in and doing it and wearing the hat of CFO and personal assistant and sometimes delivery driver, this thing or that thing, or planning events and coordinating things. But like I look back and like the impact my mom had in my life is totally invaluable, right? And my dad's work ethic and all the things that he taught us about business, and seeing his example. But like that was an unfair advantage to wake up as a kid and to have that example every single day.
Well, and there's a sense of connectivity and belonging and stability that gives you that it's hard to describe. And I don't think we can even really fully ever understand what it is. You just know that it is a massive advantage to have, And one of the things I've told my wife is like, you create home. There is no home without you. Like I cannot create. I had a house before I was married, but I never had a home. And I never would. Left to my own devices, I just worked myself into an early grave. It's like you have to have that. So I think it's awesome that we're sitting here talking about the value, the irreplaceable value of motherhood, because it's not talked about enough. And for you to share in your, I had a similar experience. I mean, I had a mom that was just absolutely incredible. As not only a partner to my dad, and they own businesses, but like clothes and laundry and habits and always being there. And I don't think it's talked about enough.
No, totally true. And I have to shout out my wife, Melanie, as well, because she's incredible at it. She does an amazing job with our kids, and she takes care of so much stuff so that I can go focus on making money, on being out there and providing for our family. And she trusts me that I'm going to make good decisions every day that are going to put our family in a good situation, not just now or 10 years from now or 30 years from now, but, in perpetuity. Because for me, the goal has never just been like, oh, hey, like I'm going to go die and my kids are just on their own, right? Like I think that's a poor way of thinking. And I want to, like, I feel like I had some unfair advantages in life. Like I talked about, my parents' work ethic, my mom waking up, making me breakfast and stuff every morning. But like, I want to give my kids unfair advantages too, right? Like I want them to see, oh, hey, my dad was able to figure things out that took other people 5 years, he did it in a year. Other people, it took him 10 years, he did it in 6 months. Like I want to give not only that example to my kids, but I also want to create opportunities for them. I think it's such a small-minded way that society like brainwashes people into believing, hey, you should go tell your kids to go get into debt when they go to college and take on student loans. They should go get into debt going and buying a house somewhere else. They should have to go move across the country and go work for some other company that treats them like crap for 15 or 20 years. It's like, why? Yeah. Like that's the last thing on earth I want. Like I want my kids to learn hard work. I want my kids to learn having to struggle and to do things on their own and gaining value. It's like I can do that in a lot of ways. Right? Like I was just telling about the example with my son Cannon. Like one of the things he had to do this last year is he had to think through businesses that he wants to create in this next year. Like he's starting a business during the summer after he gets out of school. But it's like, okay, Go start researching vending machine businesses, laundromat businesses, snow cone businesses, like go a cleaning business, a landscaping business, like go start figuring out like what would the analysis look like on this, right? Go build out a pro forma on all these different types of businesses. Like he's 14, right? Like he's 14 learning how to build out business pro formas and understanding like, okay, how many employees do I need to hire? What would I need to pay them? What would maintenance costs be? How would I have to structure these sorts of things? Who's going to run this for me? Like when I'm in school, like who's going to fill in if, someone doesn't show up and we're gone on a family vacations, like you're having to think through all those kinds of things in structuring a business. Yeah. It's like, I want to give those unfair advantages to my kids. Like I want to teach them all those kinds of things. And it's not just, I'm going to go give them money because I don't believe in giving handouts, but I definitely believe in giving hand ups, right? Like I want to give unfair advantages to my kids where they have opportunities to go do things because of opportunities that I created, right? Like I don't want my kids to go into student loan debt somewhere else. No. Yeah. Hey, but we have a deal in this family that I will help you be able to afford certain things, but there's things that are expected in order to be able to get there, right? Like I want to give you opportunities. Like I want to own properties so that my kids, rather than going paying rent to someone else, they're paying rent into the family, right? Like there's opportunities there, but it's like I don't need to go line other people's pockets in helping my kids to learn hard work and to go do hard things. And so I think that that's a really small-minded way of thinking, to think that, hey, my kids have to go grind out the exact same way that I did. Like, no, I don't want that for them. I want them to go grind, but you can go learn that in a lot of different ways, and you can go learn it in ways that we can go expedite it, right? Like I don't want to take you 20 years to learn these lessons or to be financially secure. If I can help you to learn these lessons and go do it in a way shorter amount of time, I'm 1,000% going to go do that.
Kam, you're a motivated guy, a driven guy. Do you ever remember times in your life as a father where you thought, or maybe had a wake-up call, or maybe something happened where you weren't spending enough time with your kids, or you weren't spending enough time as a father and you were working too much? Or do you ever remember something like that?
Yeah, for sure. When I went back and I was going to graduate school, I was working 50, 60 hours a week, and then I was doing grad school on top of that. And I remember when I first went to all the intro stuff, like going into grad school, I remember them saying like, hey, we anticipate that your coursework should probably take you 15 to 20 hours a week. Like, just so you know, like orientation, like getting into this, that's about what it will take you. So, we realize that you all have at least 2 years of relevant work experience, that, you've all been accepted into the program, but just so you know, like if you want to back out, like if your workload, your family or whatever, like this is about what it'll take. And I remember that first week of going through my coursework, and I'd probably spend close to 20 hours over the week of like doing everything. And I'm a big believer in not looking too far ahead. Like when I have a ton of stuff to do and I start getting overwhelmed, I just go to like the idea of like, how do you eat an elephant? Like one bite at a time. Yep. And so I get overwhelmed if I try and think too far ahead. So I'm like, you know what? Like I'm just going to go do one task and then the next and the next and the next. And I'm not looking ahead. Like if I had to read, X number of chapters, I wasn't looking to see how many pages that was. Like, nope. Like I'm just jumping in and I'm going to go do
chapter,
it.
This
yeah.
page,
Like that's it. Right. And so I was doing that. So I was like, okay, you know what? Like I want to be able to go do something fun with the kids today. It's Saturday. I've already put in like 20 hours this week. I have some more assignments and things I need to get done. And I'm a big believer, like Sunday's our family day, so we don't go do other stuff. Like we don't go other places. We don't like hang out with friends or do stuff like that. We just like spend Sundays our day for going to church and spending time as a family. And so like I didn't do homework or anything like that on Sundays. And so I was like, okay, like I want to be able to go do something with the kids this afternoon. So I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to go start grinding. I'm going to get all my stuff done. So hopefully I'm done before noon. And I remember at like 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, like finally like looking ahead to see like how much more I had to do. And it was like, I had like a couple hundred more pages I had to read. I had like all these assignments. I remember like breaking down crying and being like, I'm not smart enough to do this. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this. And it was, I think, kind of at that moment where I was like, okay, either I can give up and quit, or like I can just do whatever it takes and hope that in doing it that I just get stronger and I just build my capacity. And so that was hard, right? For that period of time, I think it was 19 months total start to finish when I was doing my graduate degree, that like I had very little time for my family because I was working all the time. And when I wasn't working, I was doing schoolwork. And like, I remember thinking in that time, being like, I'm never going to take having an evening with my family for granted. I'm never going to take getting to like wake up with my kids on a Saturday morning, like make them breakfast or like go do something funny. I'm never going to take that for granted because like I knew it was like to not have that for such a long period of time. But at the same time, like I was also willing, I would wake up every day and I'd roll out of bed and I'd say, I love my family more than I love sleep. And that was what would get me out of bed, right? When my alarm would go off at 4:45 in the morning, I'd say like, I love my family more than I love sleep. And that was like what I'd recite to myself every single day. And I was willing to make the sacrifices knowing my kids were at the time. I think Cannon was 3 and Versailles was 1. And then Collins was born while I was in grad school. But I knew that eventually they're getting older, they're going to be involved in things, and I want to be at those things. I want to be able to support them. And so I'm willing to grind really, 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 really hard right now so that more doors and more opportunities will be open to me later.
What would you say to somebody who listens to your story and they think, man, this all sounds awesome, but it's too late for me. Like my kids are already 15 years old or 10 years old, and I'm just getting started in my journey, just started my business. I'm not in a position to be at everything that they can be at and still work. Like, it's too late, so I'm not even going to try. What would you say to somebody?
No, and it's a great point. I think that everyone's plagued with that every single day of their life with something. And what I'd say to that is this old proverb that says, the best day to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best day is today. Yeah. And so even if you didn't start 20 years ago, you can start today and start making small changes in your life today, right? Like I was counseling with a lady on her business a couple weeks ago, and she was like, well, I don't know. Like, I think like I might just be too old to implement this, right? Like, this is too much change. And like, well, how old do you want to be when you finally do make a change? Do you want to be 70 years old doing things exactly the same way you do them now? Do you want to be 65 years old? Or do you want to make a change now, right? Like, you still have plenty of time left that you can go make these changes now. Yeah, your kids might be 15, but guess what? Like, they're going to be 20 one day. They're going to be 25. They're going to be 30. They're going to have kids.
That's right.
Like, do you want to be able to be there for them? Yeah. Or do you want to be stubborn and continue to say like, hey, I'm just going to do things this way? Or it's hard for me to go learn new things. Well, if it's hard for you to go learn new things, start with something small. Like, what's something that's hard for you today, and just go conquer that thing. Like, you don't have to go conquer everything that's hard for you. Yep. But what's one thing today that's hard for you to do, and go do that thing? Maybe that's waking up on time. Maybe that's reading a book for 5 minutes. Maybe that's, oh, I don't even know how to listen to a podcast. Well, figure out how to listen to a podcast, right? Like, figure out how to download your first one. Figure out how to go, like, learn a new skill on YouTube. But just go conquer really, really small tasks, like, eat an elephant one bite at a time. But just go conquer one small task today, and then go do another one tomorrow, and then another one the day after that, another one the day after that, right? Like, I call my podcast 1% Podcast, not because like, oh, it's all about interviewing the top 1% people. Is Nick's the best, or this person's the best, that person's the best. It's like, yeah, like, I want to have people that are elite in whatever they do. But mainly, like, I want people that believe in this idea of like getting better every single day. And like, even if like I don't think I'm the best, but I'm just going to keep working. And if I can get a little better tomorrow than I am today, and the day after that, the day after that, like, that compounding effect of improvement and getting better, becomes massive when it's compounded over time, right? It's just doing little things. And as much as I said, like, I sometimes don't like looking too far ahead because I get overwhelmed. It is healthy to turn around and look back and say, like, this is where I was at a year ago. This is where I was at 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I think that could be a really motivating thing when you are trying to make those small changes, that it may just feel like one step at a time. But when you look back, you have the advantage of saying, like, holy cow, like, I've come a long ways, right? I think you and I talked about this a little bit in relation to climbing. Like, it's really easy to get overwhelmed if you're, looking clear up at the summit and being like, how far I still have to go. But if you just focus on making one step at a time, and periodically you can look behind you. Don't look too far ahead, but look behind you and be like, holy cow, look how far I've come. I'm not giving up now.
I don't know if he said it, but I remember hearing it first from Jordan Peterson. I don't know if he said it first, but he said, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who somebody else is today.
Yeah.
And don't you think that this sort of disease of it's too late, doesn't that ultimately just come from comparison? Because everyone's always comparing themselves to other people.
100%, right? It's like, I think that, that comparison is the thief of joy, but also the fastest way to be miserable is to yearn for someone else's life. Right? Like, I don't ever want to look at someone else and be like, I would trade my life for theirs. And I think that's part of, maybe it's the competitive nature in me. Yeah. But like, and my kids were saying this the other day, like, Dad, like, you're like so competitive about all this stuff. It was like, from a really young age, like, I never wanted to like go look at some other guy and be like, wow, I would trade my life for that dude's life. Like, literally no one, right? Like, I would not trade my life for anyone's life. And I don't think that most people could say that. I think that most people would be like, you know what? Like, I would trade my life for someone else's life. And it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot to like get yourself to that place where you're like, you know what? I wouldn't trade spots with anyone else because I love what I've learned to get to this point. I love where my life is at, and I love the direction that my life is going. And I think that if you put enough time and effort into something, like, you would never want to trade what you have for what anyone else has.
How do you guard your heart against some of this stuff? Because you're a guy who's out there, you got a podcast, you're marketing, you're meeting new people, you're on social media, you got a big dynamic company. So you have a lot of stuff coming at you on a daily basis. Yeah. How do you guard your heart against some of this comparison and looking over the fence at what other people are doing?
And I think that's something that's not talked about enough, right? Like, I appreciate the question, because I think that that is something that bombards a lot of people. Is one of the fastest things that can tear you down is an arrogance about what got you to where you are, right? Like, I think it's easy for people to be like, oh, hey, I got here simply because of me, not because, hey, you know what? Like, I had some unfair advantages in life. Right? Like, I had a great mom and a great dad. I learned a lot of great things from a lot of people. I've had some great mentors in my life. I had an amazing high school football coach, had amazing people that I've been able to learn from, professors, just other influences in my life, that when you look around and you see all these people that have contributed to my success, and then looking at it in terms of everything that I've accomplished or everything that I've done is for someone else, right? Like, it's all for my kids. None of it's for me, right? It's for my kids, for my grandkids, for my future posterity. Because I think it's really easy when people start focusing on themselves, you start to make stupid decisions, right? And you and I have both seen plenty of companies that go seemingly have a lot of success and then quickly have a downfall because someone's making really stupid decisions that are based in their own self-interest, not in what's in their long-term best interest of 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20, 30, beyond. And that's not to say that you can't go have fun. You can't go enjoy the moment. You can't go do things with your kids or want to create a life for your family that you have now. I certainly think there's something to enjoying the moment and not saying, hey, I'm going to go live pinching pennies because I just want to be able to sock as much away that's going to go. I think that you're creating a life, not just creating, a monetary legacy. But I think that monitoring who you're around, what influences you allow to come into your life, what you read, what you listen to, what you allow to affect you is one of the ultimate shows of your discipline, right? Because if you're only filling and it becomes really easy to do, to fill your life with yes people, right? To fill your life with people that are just going to tell you what you want to hear. I want to have people around me that are going to push me, that are going to challenge me, going back to wanting to have A+ people around you. Because A+ people around you are going to force you to be the best version of yourself. They're going to force you to think outside the box. They're going to force you to consider outside opinions and perspectives. And having great people, having great influences, books, podcasts, other forms of media that you consume that are pushing you in the direction that you want to go, rather than, you know what, that was all really good while I was grinding for the past 10 or 15 years, but I'm done with all that stuff now. Now I'm in, my phase of I'm just enjoying and coasting. I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm not built that way. If I have a day where I didn't do something or accomplish something on a Saturday, I tell my wife, man, I feel like a worthless piece of crap today, right? It's, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I really haven't accomplished anything. I'm not the kind of guy that could just go golf every day for 10 years and be happy about it, right?
I think at a certain level and again, this can be unhealthy if it goes too far, but on a certain level, you understand that you're either growing or you're dying. Yeah. And so do I. And so we understand that the only thing that keeps us on the right path is the habits. It is the path that's walking it every day. And that no matter how, high we might climb, if we just sit there and sit around for long enough, we're going to get in trouble. Yeah. And I think it's healthy to, like you said, they don't have yes people in your life, have people that will remind you. But you have to be proactive about it. I think that's important for people to understand is the natural state of things is to just be passive. The natural state of things is to be surrounded by yes people. Yeah. You have to be proactive and diligent about walking a different path.
And you atrophy really, really fast, right? Atrophy happens so quickly. I had this experience when I was a kid. I was maybe 12 years old, and I broke my foot. And so I got put in a cast. It was only in a cast for maybe 6 or 7 weeks. I think I was supposed to have it on for 10 weeks. And my dad ended up cutting it off the night before basketball tryouts. And so he gets out his Dremel tool and, cuts my cast off. And I go to stand up, and I fall over on the floor, right? There's no strength in my foot, no strength in my legs. I'd had this cast on for the last 6 or 7 or 8 weeks. And I fell over, and I was like, holy crap, my leg is so skinny just from not having anything on it for just, a few weeks.
Yep.
And that analogy always stuck with me because it's the same thing in life, right? Like if you just become complacent, it doesn't take very long. Right? Like it does not take very long before you start dying, right? Before you start atrophying. And so same thing is true with muscles, same thing is true with your mind, same thing is true with your spirit, right? Like if you go just like turn your back on anything that's going to make you physically strong, mentally strong, spiritually strong, emotionally strong, if you quit doing those things, like you atrophy really, really quickly and you just start to fall apart,
Absolutely.
right? And so that it's something that requires constant maintenance in every aspect of your life.
What advice would you give yourself 10 years ago? Understanding that, like, I firmly believe that we're in the best position to help us 10 years ago. What advice would you give yourself?
Belief that you get to decide not what happens to you, but how you respond. And I think learning at a younger age that I could have controlled not what happens to you, but just how you respond to it, I think that would have given me a massive advantage earlier on in life. And, I talked about just having this idea of wanting to be able to do things quickly. And I think that that's a strength, and that's definitely something like I would recommend to anyone is if anyone tells you something takes a certain amount of time, it's probably about half that, right? Like anything that someone tells you, it's going to take 6 months or it's going to take a year, it's going to take 10 years, figure out a way to do it in half the time that people tell you that something's going to take. And that will get you places that otherwise you would never go. And so everyone has an invisible clock, right? Everyone has this invisible countdown that we don't know when the end of it is. And I didn't want to get to the end of mine and feel like, hey, there's all these things that I didn't accomplish, right? Like you get one life to live, you get one life to experience all these things. And I didn't want to spend all of it doing things that I hated. And so if I was going to do something, and I'm a firm believer that like you could learn to love anything and you can become wealthy at anything, right? Like you could be hanging gutters, running a cleaning business, doing hair, like running a law firm or working in medicine or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't matter what field you go into. Like, you can become wealthy doing anything and you can enjoy doing anything. And I'm a firm believer in that. Like, I don't think that I just have this proclivity to only enjoying being construction, engineering, and real estate stuff. Like, I think that I could have found a way to enjoy anything because I enjoy helping people. And I think that real happiness comes from helping make other people's lives better. And so I think that you can become successful at anything. I think that you can become happy at just about anything. Now, certainly finding out where you have aptitudes is helpful, but anyone can become wealthy in any area and anyone can figure out a way to get freedom in any area. You just have to go figure out like, okay, what am I going to be able to go do that the fastest in, and what's going to help me be driven? Like, what do I thrive off of? And so identifying those things at a young age, I think will help give you a massive advantage. And so if I go back and teach that to myself, it would be learn to control your thoughts regardless of whatever happens to you, and then be willing to like figure out a way to identify what you love and then go spend your time going and doing those things. Because when you can figure out the parts of the business that you love, for me it was helping people. If you can figure out a way to help people, go spend more of your time helping people, and then you're going to be like Superman.
Yeah. There's always parts of the business that you love more than others.
Yeah.
There's always going to be things you do that you don't love, but you have to do. That's why they call it work. That's why you get paid to do it.
Yep, it's true.
But you do want to like orient your life as much as you can around the things you actually enjoy. And speaking of that, what are you most excited about today? You've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Obviously, American Construction Supply, real estate, development. You guys have kind of a family of companies now. But what are you most excited about today, and what do you want to communicate to people that you guys are doing moving forward? Yeah,
so one of the things I'm most excited about is a platform that I'm getting ready to launch about helping other people, right? Helping entrepreneurs, helping people at whatever phase of their life that they're in. And so focusing on personal development, business development, obviously like with kind of my unique perspective of, having been a single dad at one point in my life, working through family business stuff, starting multiple different companies, transitioning things through multiple generations. Like I want to be able to go help people along that path. And so I get that some people are only going to connect with certain parts of that and certainly it's not going to appeal to everyone, but like wanting to be able to go and help people. And so I'm excited to launch that. And that's going to take a few different, it's going to come in a few different forms, but I'm excited to be able to focus on doing more things to help people and to give back and to share. Like, if something took me 20 years to learn, can I go help you learn it in a couple of months, right? And so like I want to help give unfair advantages, not just to my own kids, but to everyone else. And I think that's part of the reason, like, I love coaching. I love giving back. I love being involved in the community, because literally everything that I've ever learned, I mean, you and I are right here talking today, like, I'm willing to give it away for free, right? Like, and I'm a firm believer in that whatever you go put out there, that you're going to go receive back 100-fold. And so I have never had anything bad happen in my life by giving away what I know for free. And so helping people, sharing what I know. Now, obviously, like, you have to have a platform, you have to, make money doing it, so that it opens up those opportunities to be able to actually go disseminate it. But, like, I have no problem sharing what I know and helping other people or answering questions. And I'm just a firm believer that what you give to people will ultimately come back to you.
Do you have a name for it? Is it a school, or is it an academy?
We'll be launching it soon. Yeah. So everything kind of lives off the 1% name.
Okay,
so it'll all be kind of be living on that.
Right.
But yeah, so there'll be opportunities to join, there'll be opportunities to consume content, there'll be opportunities to be able to, buy classes and things like that. And so anyway, I'm excited to launch that later on this year. But yeah, so it's something that I'm working on right now. But I'm just really excited about that, right? Like, I'm really passionate about wanting to help people and to share what I've learned and hopefully help people to expedite their process.
That's incredible. I love that. Well, Kam, as we wrap up here, a question I always want to know from people is, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want said about you? What do you want your legacy to be when it's all said and done?
I would love for people to look back and to say, whether they learned this from me personally or they just learned it from my example, but that they can do hard things. And bad things are going to happen to everyone. We don't get to choose what happens to us. We just get to pick the way that we respond, and that they can learn. Like, I've just seen so many people in my life, their life be destroyed by bad habits, by, failures, or, drugs, alcohol, like things that they fell into. I want to be able to leave a legacy behind where people feel like they can do hard things, and that, seeing my life and things that have happened to me or that I've been through, that hopefully that can give them a roadmap to saying, like, no matter what happens to me, there's always a way out of it, right? Every trial comes with a corresponding silver lining and a lesson, an opportunity to be gained from it. And so I hope that people can look back and they can see, like, it is possible, regardless of what's happened to me in my life, whatever things I'm going through, there's a way out of it, and there's other people that have been through it. And I'm not saying that, it's whether through me, but that's part of the reason why I wanted to do a podcast. And I wanted to create a network and an opportunity for people, because it's like, I want to give them, like, you've been through different things that I've been through, and this person and that person have been through different things than I've been through. And so giving those opportunities where people can see other people's perspective, I just want to be a voice for that. I want to be a platform where people can realize, like, no matter what they're going through, no matter what set of cards they were dealt, that there's an opportunity to go make it better and to leave a better life than the one that they came into.
Phenomenal, man. I love it. Thank you. Appreciate your time.